Thank you so much for joining, guys. This is even extra special for you to go out your way to Brisbane. Actually, yeah, where is everyone from? Just start throwing locations in. I'd be really interested to see how far we've got. Um, but yeah, this is a on the right screen. A bit of housekeeping. This is a live session. Just please ask questions, show up fully, share your thoughts. It's as we're going to find out with everything that we're talking about. This goes so much better when it's two-way. And a lot of people are here to talk about and hear about the new cohort that we're launching. So we'll go through details of that at the end. And like I said, we're going to send out the recording. So yeah, for everybody who's still here. It'll actually just go out to everybody, not everyone who's still here. So some misconceptions before we jump into everything. Grasshopper is a solo struggle. Other designers' problems won't help me. This is generally what people think of, people's approach as well. We learn in these very siloed bunkers, cut off from the rest of the office who don't understand what we're doing. Community learning sounds just like it's for beginners. Misconception. And I need to master Grasshopper before I join a community. Like I need to have skills before I can, give back to a community. These are misconceptions. So the reality is Grasshopper has always been very community driven. From all the plugins that we use, the community is the infrastructure. People just don't realize how powerful it is or how to access it properly. Talking about our work out loud, we think there are ideas are articulated better, even messy ones. And so communities are essential for building a lot of things that help us as designers. Focus on stuff that works, so don't just collect information. Create, discuss, get feedback, reflect, repeat, and surround yourself with problems to solve and people to solve them with. I like this phrase. I'm going to write it down very large on the Tekne website. But yeah, it's best. Grasshopper is so much easier to learn with others, and we're going to go through all of the reasons for that. So why is even community? Why are we even talking about this? To stay motivated. You have a group of people around you, to find people who think like you, to challenge you, to ask questions when you can't Google it or ChatGPT it. To move through all the horrendously messy parts that you can't work out, or is it just so you don't feel alone? And we've all been there using these tools, and no one really understanding us. So, yeah, or is it all of these, or part of all of these? So today we're going to unpack how community learning actually works, why it's actually really important for computational design, and for all of these, it helps us learn faster. The having a conversation isn't just, it's an amplifier, and because of the feedback. So we're going to learn all about that. We're going to look at some different theories of learning to support these ideas, and diversity as another amplifier. So by the end we'll hopefully know a lot about how this works. And you'll see some examples from our existing community. Hopefully get some words from these guys as well. So yeah, you'll get a new way to think about computational design and the confidence, hopefully, to make it stick, understanding how to build or join a community that supports your growth, and a new lens for evaluating your learning environment. Learning happens like environment is everything. And we take it for granted, but like when we have a good environment that is nurturing us and supporting us, we go places that we wouldn't have been able to do before. So really looking at your office and the structure of your office and your environment, and do people want this stuff? How do people engaging with it? All of this is really important. The culture surrounding it affects how you learn. This is not a tutorial. I'm not even going to open Grasshopper. There is no formula for instant skill anyway, but we're going to learn about stuff that works. Practical, proven structures. And it's no magic wand, but it's a powerful accelerator. The right environment changes everything. So we can start building that is the idea. So again, I've done a lot of these. A lot of people know who I am, but for those of you who don't, I'll go through it very quickly. I forgot I put the little picture of Oscar, my son, in there. He's 10 months now, 9 months. But I'm an architect and maker, builder, and I've just always been using computational design in my work. I've worked for all these people to do lots and lots of projects and builds, and from all different scales, and Grasshopper computational design's always been my little go-to, even if no one else was using it around me, it was always my skills. And talking about communities and things, when I was at Foster and Partners, they have this, and this is a big inspiration on what, everything that I'm doing now. The specialist modeling group, I don't know if you know these guys, within really inspiring group within Foster's, and they would feed into lots of different projects, and help and work on geometry, building physics, design tech innovation. And I was super inspired by these guys. I really wanted to go and work with them. I worked like with them, and they worked on my projects, but I didn't never worked in the specialist modeling group. And if I'm being honest, there was always felt like a bit of an intellectual wall. There probably wasn't. It was probably just me and how I was feeling in that environment. But I always felt a little bit intimidated, very intimidated by these guys, because they're, Daniel Piker's in this group. So, automatically you're in a ballpark that you don't feel comfortable in. So you don't open up and you don't learn as much. Those anxieties and imposter syndromes just take over. So I think that stopped me from getting more involved. And I mention it just because these experiences are important. They've shaped everything that came after that for me anyway, which was starting my own company, Tekne Lab and Tekne Learn. And there's really two sides of what I do, which is do it for people, like as a computational design, as a consultancy, and then teaching people how to do it, which is Tekne Learn. So I've been teaching for a long time, lots of content in different formats and ways. We did a PA Academy earlier this year, which was great. Which actually, just as a link, like Walter hooked me up for this. Walter linked me to Hamid to set all this up. So, Walter, like if anything, Walter is the connector in all of this. Um, and the communities that we've been building around Technoland, and teaching people, coaching people, building a membership, and really evolving this over the past a couple of years. And what I found is that the Technolab and Technolearn, they two sides of what we're doing. They're actually the same thing. They're just different scales. And the content and things that we post that people engage with are actually, people want to learn, see behind the veil, see behind the curtain, and see what we do at Technolab as well. So we're kind of going through a bit of a branding update at the moment. So we're going to focus on Technolab as a whole. Collaborations are people that we're working with. Community is all of our coaching and training that we're working with for people. And it's all linked by craft, computational design as a craft. So this is our branding that we're kind of going through, and there'll be lots of updates on this, but still on the way. And yeah, it's to show both sides of what we do. The collaborations that we're working with, and people that we're working with, as well as all the memberships and coaching and training. So this is what I'm going to go through today. The problems with learning alone, how community supports learning, theories, intrinsic knowledge, which I think is really interesting, diversity multiplier, we'll go into this, and some Tekne community wins to show some stuff that we've been working on, how this works and why it works so well. So the problem with learning alone. Now, Grasshopper is a pain to learn, and a lot of people's problem is their introduction to it. And a lot of the time, people have a deadline that they want to do, they have a design they want to be able to do, they have no time to actually properly learn, and they have very high expectations because they're on Instagram, they see all these cool stuff and people posting Grasshopper. So this is what people think. The learning resources that are available to them are hard to navigate. It's a very messy space, and you're a lot of the time following another person's logic. Put that together with the nature of Grasshopper, which is just messy, which is a pro in my opinion, but it's very non-linear problem solving. So this is another problem for people starting, and we're designing systems, not objects. So for all these reasons, when we cross these over into our nice Venn diagram, we have two specific projects that we're trying to work on. We don't have the support we need, and we actually just don't understand Grasshopper. So this middle bit is like a little trifecta of pain, and this cycle that we end up in is a very negative feedback loop because we want to do something, we don't have the support, and we don't really understand Grasshopper. And this is people's world for a long time, or can be. It's massively time consuming, frustrating, and very unsatisfying, and a lot where a lot of people are. And so if we just look at like the resources, I thought this was quite interesting for the resources that you might learn from over time for Grasshopper. From 2007, there was a few written stuff. There was the oh, maybe they happened a little bit after. It was not like purely in 2007, but you had Mode Labs for the primer. You had the algorithms aided design. You had all these people around the world, but making plugins and different things. You had the original Grasshopper forums, which were great. Which then went into the new Rhino one, which is not as good. And then you've got tutorials and tutorials, and this like 10, 15 years of tutorials just building up in YouTube. Very messy, very hard to navigate to find what you want. And then you have as well a lot of like mini courses and things. The most interesting bit about all of this, in my opinion, is and always has been this area, which is the community driven, the grassroots aspect of Grasshopper, people just working stuff out and sharing it, and this is where it's always kind of been a bit of a community experiment, but like I said, people just don't at first know how to tap into that. Again, one of the problems with Grasshopper as well is that we are, when we first start, we are approaching it as 3D modelers usually. There's a sequence of steps to make this object. It's just a cube. But that's what we focus on. We focus on the result, not the process. That's as a 3D modeler, that's what we're interested in. We're less bothered about the process and more the output. Whereas with Grasshopper, we have to shift our mind to process itself, what things are made of, and what order do I do things in that's going to be most efficient. And it's a very, very different mindset. To develop that mindset, we generally would think, okay, let's just watch 1,000 tutorials and then we will learn. If we watch enough people do this stuff, then surely we'll learn ourselves. And so I don't have anything against tutorials in that we just need to put them in a category and understand what we're going to get from them. So tutorials, short courses, they're usually great in the short term. You get some good wins, but in the long run, they don't give you what you need. And it's because of this one-way information exchange. Presenter and audience. You don't get to ask questions. There's no feedback mechanism in that usually. They're great to show you how to do something, but they fall short as to show you why. And we learn very well when we understand why things work. So this total is, the pain for the individual learning on their own is they're stuck on syntax, not systems. They don't understand how to piece problems together. They potentially learning in isolation, and they have tutorial fatigue. These are things I've seen people do and tell me over and over again for a long time. So this is the problem with learning alone. So, and from building our communities and working with people over the past specifically a few years, but also groups that I've done over many years, seeing how community and how people actually learn from each other is really, really interesting. And so how we learn is just as important as what we learn, is what I would say. And I've been trying to kind of get my head around this as well, and I came across this pyramid of learning that I thought was really interesting because it shows you how much knowledge retention for different activities, and they're basically split into two things: passive teaching methods and participatory teaching methods. And this scale is like exponential as well. Just a lecture, you're going to retain 5% of the knowledge, which is my worry now because I'm doing a lecture and you're going to learn, you're going to remember 5% of what I tell you. So which is why this being engaging, asking questions is how it makes it more of a discussion. And you can see the jump from just a lecture to a discussion about how we retain information and how we create knowledge is ridiculously big. It's a huge jump. And so when we start looking at what works, what doesn't work, and I put on here, I put a follow along tutorial. I put it as a demonstration. because we're kind of actively following along. That might be um not that might be too much. It could be, you could say it's a lecture, it could be audio or visual, you don't have feedback. So I put it as a demonstration, which is 30%. So, if you do a 2 hour tutorial, expect about 36 minutes of like knowledge retention. And I just want to just put numbers against this just because it's quite interesting. Whereas a practical session where we are actually doing something and thinking for ourselves, if we do 2 hours of that, we'd expect about 90 minutes of retention. So it's 86% more effective just by actually using your own brain and doing something. However, and this is where the problem is, a follow-on tutorial is the only option where you're going to get guaranteed an outcome if the tutorial is good. I have a problem. I need to do this. So I watch a tutorial, so I solve the problem. Whereas a practical session where I'm trying to work things out for myself, I'm following some content, whatever, but I'm actively working, you gain more knowledge, but you're not guaranteed a perfect outcome. So, and this is the problem. This is why most people stay in this world. They're not committed enough to do the active learning and actually, actively learn rather than passively learn. So this is what I see. And so community-based learning is so powerful because it focuses on these bottom levels, where discussion groups, practice by doing, teaching other people is 90%. And I can vouch for that because I have learned so much by teaching. I've learned so much about my grasshopper skills just by teaching people, and all of this that I'm going through is from teaching people. I didn't sit and think this up. This is feedback from working with people, and it's quite interesting. So we're going to go through these bottom three levels in one way or another, to go through just a little bit more detail on how they, how they link to community-based learning. So we'll start with discussion groups. And I should explain. So discussion groups are all to do with language and feedback loops we're going to talk about. Practice by doing, shared process, messy work. This is how an amplifier here. And then teaching others. And I'm calling this the diversity multiplier. So we're going to go into all of this. So discussion groups. And this for me is all about language and feedback. And this is a 50% knowledge retention if we're doing this. So before we even get to like big groups, let's just see what happens when two individuals try and help each other. We have one person on the left who has a problem. The person on the right is going to try and help them. And we run into a problem because Grasshopper is very abstract. And when we have a problem, it's very difficult to even articulate the problem. So it's very hard to even ask a question in Grasshopper. And we first need to translate that abstract thought into actual language. So we have a language barrier. We have to take our jumbled mind of stuff and turn it into speaking words. And it's difficult. At first we can't describe those problems, and it's nearly impossible because we don't have the right vocabulary to be able to do it, to even ask the right question. And so it's very difficult to get help with help because you don't know what you're asking for. And it's the conversion of abstract thought into comprehensible language that's our biggest challenge. And so the communication is going to go in two ways. You're going to ask someone on a forum or the internet. So this is written questions and answers. Works really well for shallow and surface levels. Where's this? Where's that? But it can fall short for more complex, nuanced problems. Slow, prone to misunderstanding, and ironically, we have too much time to overthink it. We use language that is that we think we understand, or we explain things in a very complex way and convoluted way because we have time to overthink it. This is, and responses are slow. It's not a conversation, which is where something magical happens. This is not just about words. This is about deeper levels of communication, speed, tone, body language. You get, we're a social species, so this is it's inherent understanding. So with the conversation, it's fun because there's no editing, there's no polish. It's just one person rambling to another sometimes out loud. It's messy, it's very unclear sometimes, but very powerful. And it's because the listener has to interpret that nonsense, reflect, rephrase it, builds understanding in real time between each other. It becomes a feedback loop, not just to solve the problem, but to clarify the question itself. So the exchange doesn't even just help the speaker, it sharpens the listener as well. And this feedback loop increases, and just passing something back and forth between you is so much more than what it seems. And so imagine doing that not with two people, 10 or 20, a room full of people doing that same dance, converting intuition to language, language to clarity, clarity to learning. It's a very powerful multiplier, and it's not static. Everyone's constantly shifting between, the positions of logical thought and abstract thinking. Some people are just listening as well. Some people aren't even active in the conversation, and this is still working for them. It's even the people at the back, just listening to that conversation. It still amplifies that. And so this is my broad understanding of community learning. It's not just knowledge, but the room to figure things out in. It's encouragement, shared experience. You learn faster, but you also learn deeper because of those interactions. And so the next step on our pyramid was practice by doing, which is 75% knowledge retention. So just by doing something, you get more knowledge. And my analogy, it's not even an analogy, it doesn't really make much sense, but it's the difference between like watching people at the gym doing workouts as opposed to actually going to the gym yourself. um so and Grasshopper, then, it is a language. You don't learn by staying silent, reading a dictionary. It comes from making things and struggling through, trying things, failing at things, improving things, and then trying again. This cycle is where we can push ourselves, and this is how we learn. But we have to have stuff to try. And what we've noticed as well, this process is amplified with the addition of a single step, which is share. You get feedback before bad habits set in. You build different approaches that other people might do to the same challenge, and you build that confidence, that vocabulary to be able to ask for help as we're going through. And you could either do that by sharing messy scripts, with asking people on our forums, or wherever you ask questions. Like I said, it's slow, it's harder to get an answer, or you ask on videos, or you ask in a community of people. Talking to people is where you gain understanding. This is just a super sped up time lapse of lots of our sessions that we do. And so what counts as practice then? Sketching out an approach or idea, I love, because this is not inherently, I don't have to be at my computer on Grasshopper to actually do this. I can be on my iPad and out at a cafe. Turn those sketches into parametric models, rebuilding a reference project, breaking apart someone else's script, helping people to help understand how it works, posting ideas. All of this is like practice, and helping other people as well. So I love sketching things out. I loved it, just go and sit in a cafe and do this for a bit. Practice doesn't mean finishing a project, but it just means being in the work, being messy, innovative, iterative, and curious. And so as I've been like thinking about all this, I wanted to put something about, oh, have I accidentally like drawn on my own screen? Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Clear annotations. That was either me or someone else drew. Anyway. So yeah, as I've been thinking about all this, and what I've seen, and I was like, well, surely there's some theory behind this, because I can't I'm just making this stuff up, and so most of what I'm talking about is just things I've felt through practice. I've not had any formal training or real world experiences, just it's it's just trial and error. But technically, as I came to understand, that is a theory. It's intrinsic knowledge. And it's knowledge, and it's an important type of knowledge that we all have, and it's knowledge that builds through doing, noticing patterns and reflecting. We feel what's working, what isn't, and I think this is one of the nuances of computational design and Grasshopper that we struggle with, because like it's really hard to verbalize that stuff. It's why language is so important to express what we think. Um, and shape those very powerful mental models. So, and actually digging into this a bit deeper, I was like, okay, I'm going to pull out some cool theories that actually like support this, which is really interesting for me, because it's like just supporting things that I was thinking anyway. But systems thinking is something, and actually I should caveat, each of these I could probably do like an hour-long session on. I'm not going to. I'm going to give you a very, very high level overview, but so system thinking is a type of thinking. We're designing problems, design problems on networks, not checklists. And Grasshopper mirrors that a lot. Discussion lets us zoom out, see the patterns, and community helps us see other people's patterns. And there's something called constructivist learning. So we build the way we learn best is through experience, not passive absorption, which is those top layers of the pyramid. It's these bottom layers through an experience. That's why practice and community matters, dialogue, experimentation, context. You're not just getting answers, you're constructing knowledge. And this one was one of my favorites as well, because I say this quite a lot to different students as well. But it's called zone of proximal development. And so we grow fastest when we're just beyond our comfort zone. I always tell like people, like, you need to struggle a bit. You need to go past what you're comfortable with doing, but have a support mechanism to help you, either me or the community. So we grow fastest just beyond our comfort zone with support. That's the important bit. So, with others, you stretch, in the power of guided learning. And I found this cool diagram that actually solves it. It's the zone of frustration where you can't do anything, or right in the middle is your comfort zone. You can do all this. Like, we learn best in between those. That is the little zone where we flourish. So I made a little map of this. System thinking is the overall, and all of these intrinsic knowledge and constructivist and proximal development support this. I don't even know if this makes sense. It's just my diagram to help me get my head around it. But systems thinking is about relationships, pattern structure. So it's computational thinking. Intrinsic knowledge is that intuitive thinking that you have before words. Constructivist is learned best by doing, and but only when you have support to go just beyond your current level. This is like the sweet spot that we're trying to design. So it's like experience and support mechanisms. And the other thing that I want to add to this as well is the diversity multiplier. So there's no point in just having loads of architects in a room. If you have loads of architects in a room, you're going to get very circular, like you'll just go around in circles and do very architecty things. Biology favors diversity because it increases adaptations. More variation, you have higher adaptivity, and systems respond better to change. And so I read this book many years ago, but Richard Dawkins proposed this idea, like ideas evolve like genes as well. And he coined the term memes. So if you're going to take anything away from this entire session, is that the word meme directly is from genes, and it's how ideas propagate through bicultural transmission. Yeah, meme is a unit of cultural transmission. Ideas that survive are the ones that can be adapted, remixed, and applied in new context. So he invented that term, memes. And this is what happens in diverse communities. When one people sees a geometric problem through architecture, someone sees something in product design, someone else rewrites it through games logic. Idea multiplies, it becomes stronger. And it's not just sharing answers, we're accelerating ideas and even design cultures. So, we have architects, we have jewelry designers, naval designers, aerospace engineers. I'm not going to read all these, but you get the idea. All of these different designers coming together, and complete beginners coming together through one piece of software. So how is that like, and how is it even applicable to all these softwares and all these industries? And it's because it's a systemized approach to design. They like design agnostic. We can apply these systems and ideas to anything. The way Grasshopper allows to create and study as designers, not through design systems. Systems and form transcend design disciplines. And so when everyone in the room thinks the same, the room gets smaller. When everyone thinks differently, it expands. So just get everybody in the room. We'll make connections. Coders see data structures, not geometry. Fabricators see material tolerances. Teachers, know how to kind of structure all this. And then total beginners are great because they ask the question no one else thinks to ask. And so once you put all these people in a room, you can start making connections between it. You can start helping people in completely different industries with things that you previously might not have had any experience with. And it's because we're all talking the same language. Computational design is not tied to any one field. It's about building systems of logic and geometry that can adapt, scale, and evolve. So diversity doesn't help you solve problems. It expands what you think even design is. Because when we're designing with rules and parameters, it becomes portable from different scales and typologies to different industries. So on this scale, we have jewelry design all the way up to I put a Dyson sphere at the end, which was that's a theoretical structure where you could encase a star to capture all of its energy. Very, very big scales. And but when we're working in multidisciplinary groups, we're not just getting feedback, you're accessing other people's systems, their mental models, and that logic stacks up. It's the kind it's the input, it transforms how you think. So yeah, it's about building transferable systems, and that way we get different perspectives from different designers and different industries. So the diversity multiplier is teach others. And this is 90% knowledge retention just by helping each other, just being, with each other. And I put complete beginners here as well, because your question might be asking is like, okay, well, how do I teach someone if I don't know as much of them? And this is, how can I be part of that conversation if I don't know as much as people? And this is my problem with SMG. That it was like, I don't know. There's nothing I can contribute to this, but just by contributing, you are contributing, and I'll explain. Um, so the logical proposition is that if teaching is a form of learning and someone learns by teaching you, then you are part of their learning, which means you are teaching them as well. So just by taking part in the conversation, you teach and are being taught. But the trick is to find a room that you're comfortable talking in, because walls surround all of this, invisible walls that we create ourselves, walls that are actually put up to keep other people out. But like finding a world that you're comfortable in is the trick. And so yeah, I thought I'd go through some of our community wins that we've seen. These are actually I was going through a few old students that I was working with. But yeah, Christo, he won a RIBA student award from, so he went through all of my stuff and all advanced modules and things. But he won an award for this. I was working with Ryan a couple of years ago. He was a PhD student working on satellites, and he wanted to use Grasshopper to create origami. So he could simulate the PV cells for little mini satellites that orbit the Earth. I'm an architect. How can I help this guy? But of course I can, because we're talking systems. And he was very complimentary about our methods. Laura, she was an architect, but wanted to do lots of flooding analysis. So yeah, again, using Grasshopper, not just for geometry, but just for analysis as well. And then we have jewelry designers, lots of people feeding into different things. And so what we're seeing in this community is collaborative problem solving. So lots of different people working on lots of different stuff. We've got footwear designers, we've got shoe architects, we've got jewelry designers, we've got people working on prosthetics. And this was actually from yesterday. This was I took a screenshot, and that's Walter. Um, And he presented a really cool thing that he was working on. But yeah, everyone in the room talking about different things, feeding into different work. And we have a mural board, a community mural board where people can post questions and post their work. We post design challenges every single week, so the stuff people work on. And the idea of library building, I think, is really important for this as well, both personally, but as part of the community, because library building and everybody who goes through my stuff like understands that when we're building scripts, we are understanding and mapping functions on an individual like level. This is how we organize. Individual sections of Grasshopper that are once a little messy become their own little closed functions. And the reason for this is one, because it tidies up your script and makes it readable by everybody. But because we can see the function of all the parts and the structure of the Grasshopper script itself. And the other reason to do this is because, and it amplifies how we think and how we work cross-disciplinary, because given do this enough times and work with enough people, you start seeing links between things. You start saying, that facade that I did for whatever project, that's actually exactly the same logic that we could work on for this piece of jewelry or this piece of urban design. And you can start connecting the dots between different scripts, and the library becomes this way of doing it. And when you do this more and more with different projects, you start with a piece of architecture that will translate into other people's architecture, which might translate into urban design, product design, pieces of art. And this is, for me, how you get really good at this stuff. Not acting in isolation, it's having these conversations and doing work, trying stuff on a lot of levels. So I think I'm kind of running out of steam, but I put this here because this is the end ish. We can jump into some questions shortly, and I'll talk about the cohort. But I was hoping if any of the students that I've currently had or people in the current are in the community wanted to say any nice words, that would be great. Walter, you're always a big advocate, but totally up to you.
Yeah, I'll happily speak up. Or
Wow.
Walter, go for it.
Go for it, Walter.
Craig, you go first, please.
Oh,
Okay.
don't all jump in at once, guys. One at a time.
Everybody, let's fight. No, yeah, the community is by far like one of the best parts of this whole thing. Like Jack was saying previously about like the learning and isolation. I spent probably about a good year or so. Hold on. I got a kid. Hold on one second. Walter, you go.
Is that Lachlan?
So much to follow up on there, Jack. You know,
Go ahead.
I think it's amazing that Tekne Lab, Tekne Learn exists at all.
Me too.
So much of the computational world is about here's the book, go read the book. Here's the script, go read the script. And frankly, in terms of being an architect, it's a lot of the way that architecture has been traditionally practiced, that you kind of see what somebody else did and then maybe you do a little bit better. And you take all these lessons that you've learned and you make beautiful spaces and beautiful environments and timeless buildings. And I think that in what we're trying to do in the parametric world is give ourselves a much better opportunity to explore some of the basic logics on lots of different levels, whether it's kind of an environmental level or it's kind of a material conservation level or energy resources that computational design really helps us with those skills.
Mm,
And then I worked for 23 years at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, was an
mm,
associate partner there. And it was amazing to be part of an environment where you could constantly draw from people and have challenging projects. Then, you kind of go out on your own. And I think
mm,
Jack is kind of out on his own. I know Craig is part of a big firm, but you really miss having a community of people that all know a little bit of different things that
yeah.
uh, they probably don't have the answers to your problems, but they are super helpful when
Mm,
you're stuck and you don't know what to do. And I think that Jack, Jack's Jack's kind of like Drano some of the times. Like he really helps you get unstuck with your problems, but I think in a much more satisfying sense, he's really helped me with kind of breaking down the components
mm,
and to go back and look at a sketch or, yesterday we were working in P5JS with ChatGPT and, what are these other tools that we have access to and how do they inform us
mm,
making better decisions? So I'm a super fan of the lab or learning or
mm.
mainly just Jack's voice and his logic and his ability and Jesus, his amazing depth of knowledge with Grasshopper and those 8 million plugins and what they
Mm.
can do and how
Well,
they can help us with
it,
whatever the problem is that we're looking at. So
yeah, I think it,
I hope that there's a big community here that's kind of interested in those kind of things. And I highly recommend kind of joining for one session or 5 sessions or 10 sessions because,
mm,
it's amazing what we all have learned together
mm.
in a year of weeks. And we go back, Jack's great at, keeping all the lessons live. So what we've learned are easy to go back to. If you kind of remember the part, but you want to
Well,
go look.
that is the library building, at play. There is, there's hours and hours of just us talking about stuff
And
and
he,
going through scripts and
the Miro board, we should just keep putting that up because the
yeah.
Miro board is super invaluable.
I'll
And,
show
these past couple weeks, people like Craig or other people that are on here have developed scripts that are really different than what Jack would have developed, but
yeah, this
are
was
kind of equal to it in a unique way of
mm.
thinking and, again, very, very inspirational for me. So thanks for the opportunity to talk, Jack. I hope
Thank you.
I hope I
Thank you.
said something correct.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Thank you, Walter. It's always great catching up. Always great seeing what you're doing and everything that you bring to the table. And yeah, Craig, thank you for putting this up as well because I didn't see this one yet. But this is
And
Yeah.
to just say, so now Craig's put up the script, sometimes I put up a script. Suddenly, all of the other community members feel good about them
yeah,
being able to contribute to the script writing in their
it's
individual way. And that's, it's a great feedback loop to see the other
exactly.
way
It's
that
a
people.
space that's supposed to become whatever it needs to be. Kind of, these are all our design challenges that we do, and there's videos and scripts and images, and it's just supposed to be, have a scroll through. Like it's almost like taking a book off a shelf, have a look through. What do you want to work on? We can bring that to the next sessions. That's kind of how this works. Um,
And most importantly, like everybody in the community doesn't just give the script away. Like it's
yeah,
not the GH file that you're opening up and you start struggling with. You actually, again, have to add a little bit of yourself. You have to take some time and recreate the script. So you kind of
Well, this
start
is that
understanding what the
learning
time.
by doing, right? You know, you learn best when you do it yourself. You don't, it's very passive learning if you just take a Grasshopper file from someone. The most
Unfortunately,
passive,
Jack
because
makes it look really easy.
Well,
yeah.
there's an unlimited way of going about achieving the same thing. And so when everybody starts to contribute and you start to see however many different ways to achieve something similar, then you can start taking away from it. Like, oh, okay, what I did was not wrong. It's just my way of thinking about it. But
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
start
exactly.
looking at somebody else's, oh, they did it in like 3 nodes instead of I did it in 16. Like, how? And oh, I didn't even know that that was a thing, right? And so it becomes this eye-opening way of going about doing it. And I go through that on a regular basis, realizing that there's a lot quicker and easier way of doing something, and it's the efficiency of the script at that point. And like Walter alluded to, there's so many plugins, right? There's, if you can master to an extent the out of the box components first and foremost, and then start tapping into some of these plugins, that's great. But my personal journey has been that I spent a year plus 2 years almost just going through tutorials, paying for different like subscriptions to things to follow along these tutorials, and there was no engagement, like you said, right? So constantly coming back, trying to like find that section of the video that the person did this, then try to like recreate that over here. Now, why did that do that again? I retained that little tidbit of knowledge that it was somewhere in that video. I didn't remember the actual putting together the script part of it and why it did what it did. And so being able to have that dialogue and that discourse, and then you get to pose the question, whether it's to Jack, whether it's to me, whether it's to Walter, the community as a whole, this is the way that I'm trying to do this. Can you explain it to me in a way that I can better understand it? And when it still doesn't quite sink in, then it's like maybe it's just a little bit of rewording or retooling how it's being conveyed, and then all of a sudden it's like, eureka, my gosh, now I can put that in context with a schema that I already have from something else, whether it's the jewelry design or aeronautics, whatever, right? Somebody in the chat just said that they teach P5, right? So you're clicking and relating to some of this stuff, right? And that's what it's all about. And I mean, I try to be as involved in this as I possibly can, while also trying to be a parent and work and juggle everything and schedules and stuff. So, it's difficult, but anytime I join in these meetings, I take away some amazing stuff from everybody that's involved in this, from all over the world. And it's the best part of my day when I'm able to actually join in these conversations and actually, hear what other people are doing. It really is, the best part, because I am one of those lonely people in my office. I don't have very many people that I can communicate this stuff with. And so it's just like, oh, do your wizardry over here. But this is my group. This is my cohort. I get to geek out over here. So I'm very thankful for this.
Well, very thankful for you as well, Craig. I did not ask Craig to say any of that. That was all him. No, very genuine, very nice. So but I'm conscious of time, so we will.
Jack, can you show the Notion board as well?
Can I show the Notion board as well? Oh yeah, we have our little design challenge.
Just when you think of having the Miro board is amazing.
Oh yeah,
Jack
this is all of our design challenges that we that I've kind of organized, and they've got videos and whatever, and the locations on the community board. Just a kind of easier way to navigate than like this big messy space. It's more organized. So oh yeah,
There
thanks
have been a
for
couple of
reminding me.
questions in the chat, so
Yes,
just
so
FYI.
yeah, okay. Where is my here. Okay, so we'll do Q&A. Please add all your questions. I'm going to go through them in the meeting chat. And while you're doing that, I want to quickly talk about the new community cluster. And we're calling it a cluster because it sounds cooler than cohort. And clusters are in Grasshopper. So that is quite literally the decision to do that. So these workshops are a bit of a filter for all of this. Three types of people. People consume lots of stuff and do nothing about it, consume everything, figure it out on their own, or you can understand the stuff that we talked about today, and you can accelerate your learning by community learning, really. And these are the people we like talking to. So there's Shankar and Craig, Sandro. These are all people in our community who seem to have gotten a lot from it. And it's been great working with. We love working with these people. So if you want help speeding up that journey, computational design seems to be in a bit of a boom, especially because of AI, and the people who can talk this language are going to be the most important people. But implementing foundations, so you're not only master Grasshopper, but you have a new approach. And as well as amplifying that through everything that we've talked about, community and like-minded designers, then we are introducing this year, I'm calling it the Tekne July cluster. And so we haven't done this before because it's normally a bit of everyone will go through the core modules at their own pace. But with this cluster, what we want to do is we're going to do it a little bit more kind of formally and take a group of people. So you will be joining a private community cluster to master Grasshopper and computational thinking from the ground up. We're going to do 12 weeks, and we're going to run through all of my modules, 8 core modules, and these are the foundations of Grasshopper and computational thinking that I've developed over a long time. These are what all the guys that we've just been talking have been through. So we're going to go through one of these each week. We have design challenges. So this is the constructivist approach where you're actually doing the work. You're not just watching videos. You're applying this to your own ideas. We have the proximal development as well. So you can push yourself out of your comfort zone because we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced and pro levels each week. So you're constantly going to be pushing yourself. So all of these theories are actually built into this already. We'll have weekly group calls. So every single week you're getting a call. We're going to talk through everything. You can connect with everyone, get assistance with your work, and we'll also have a dedicated Discord channel and our own Miro board. So this is specifically for the cohort. It's everything that you need. It's the right room. There's no egos. Dumb questions are encouraged. This is this is a place where you want to be. So the July schedule, we're going to start next week with module 1. We will run through this week by week. I've built in breaks because I know people are very busy. They might want to pause to catch up. So we'll pause for a couple of weeks at around 5, 6. Then we'll carry on with the last 4 and have another couple of weeks just to finish up everything. So 12 weeks total. And the idea is then this is very structured learning. We'll have calls, design challenges, everything. You're going to continue training with us then for a year, and you will join first you'll get a certificate, but once you've completed the cluster, you're going to graduate and you're going to join our wider community. You'll get access to the whole libraries. You'll get access to, and you'll carry on with weekly design challenges. And these are the ones that we're talking about that we do every week. Weekly group calls. We have real-time rendering. We have some advanced modules on real-time rendering, advanced animations. We can do some AI stuff as well. So all of this comes once we've finished the cohort. So yeah, through all this, you'll be learning these same systems I've been using for years with all these people, and you'll have that dedicated community and weekly calls for a year. So, it's that support mechanism is just so important for all this. So pricing, just very quickly to go through this, we have 2 options for the cluster. We have 4 payments of $279 that are spread out. So over the next few months, you will pay for this. And this is for a whole year's worth of training as well. Or you can save a bit of money and do one-time payment of $1,000. So the link is going to be put up in the meeting chat now, and I'm going to go through all of your questions. This is the link to register. We are starting this with week 1 next week, so there's a bit of time to get sorted and sign up. And we'll be sending out the recording and the links and videos and things. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to get started, or with your computational design career. It's built on principles that I've seen work over years. It's going to be the quickest way to do it. And yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's optional for designers. I think advancements in AI and all the people who talk this language are going to be other people who are going to be relevant in 10 years. Most industries are going to make a shift to this kind of thinking. So, and we're also doing a no questions asked guarantee money back. So I'm super confident this works for everybody. So if you do the work, you run through the modules, design challenges, you engage with the cluster, and you're an active participant. If you're still unhappy after the 12 weeks, you can have your money back. The zero risk. You either get everything you want, or all you'll lose is the time. And if you're serious about increasing your skills, then you're going to be putting that time in anyway. So. And yeah, so click the link if you want to sign up. Like we said, we're starting next week. And I really do hope you found this valuable. So I'm going to go, shout out with questions, but I'm going to just scroll back up the meeting chat and jump into some. So, everyone put where they're from in. So we've got New Zealand, Sydney, Brisbane, Australia, New York, India, Texas, Turkey, Pakistan, Salt Lake, Bangkok. Okay, first question. Could you also explain at which stages of design and construction, computational design, parametric could be used? I guess actually, Craig answered, but yeah, all stages. Early on, we're doing very, conceptual development. Actually, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Oh, I'm still sharing screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Okay, I don't know how to stop sharing screen. Okay, never mind, I'll leave it. Yeah, all stages of design. Early on, we're going to be using it for very conceptual things. Later on, we're going to be doing analysis, environmental analysis. If we're architects, structural analysis. So yeah, we'll be using it all stages is the answer. I would suggest. Would you create much better, much more filling than AI? This is a really interesting point as well, because you could say that, we have AI we can converse with AI, let's say, and get all these answers. Is that not the same thing? And I would argue no, that we don't have that level of, kind of ChatGPT just agrees with everything you're saying anyway. It's really annoying. There's not that level of friction between the conversation with AIs at the moment. It's not like talking to a person. You do not have the same level of give and take and feedback, and I don't think you get the same level of interaction that you do from talking with someone. If possible, I really like your insights on this. Given my academic background in architecture and digital technologies, how can I strategically transition into computational design? Which skills or experience should I focus on building first? Well, you said transition into computational design. So this is like about learning systems and languages. And this comes up quite a lot when we're talking about, like, okay, well, why would I learn Grasshopper when I could just skip and learn like Python or C#, like a coding language? And my take is usually that when we're doing that, we have to learn quite complex syntax, as well as learning how to structure problems and systems in a certain way. So with Grasshopper, and I always say Grasshopper is a great entry level. It's way more inefficient than the others, like actual coding languages. But we don't have as much syntax problems. We can structure our scripts in whichever way that we want, really. And some are more efficient, but we it's much more forgiving, let's say, and you're not having to do two things at once. You're just learning how to structure problems, and those skills transition very well then into learning Python or C# and further coding language. So I would if you want to be a computational designer, I would really focus on that first, like building that. How do you break problems down and structure systems in a correct way? Because those skills are applicable to anything that you've been doing. Sadak, I swear getting answers from ChatGPT is pointless. They give me wrong component names. Yeah, ChatGPT apparently hallucinates like 30% of the time. And which is weird, isn't it? Because like if you're talking to someone, it's not like I'm gonna have the answer 100% of the time. I'm gonna be wrong quite a lot as well. But I think the problem with ChatGPT is we assume it's correct, like because it's artificial intelligence. It's highly, it's a computer. Of course, well, how could it be wrong? Like, and that's one of the problems. If we assume something is correct and we take it as black and white, then we're going to run into problems, right? But when we're talking with a human, I generally take everything with a pinch of salt. There's human error is kind of built into it. So yeah, I don't know. I think as we learn more from AIs, we're also learning how to work with them, which is don't take everything they say as gospel. Could you also I think I scrolled back up. I did documentations, annotations. Okay. I mean, not many people brought questions in, so I either did a really good job or people are quiet. Does anyone want to ask a question while not typing it down? Seeing as though we just learned that written language is slower, we could actually have a conversation about something. Sorry? Oh, do cohorts start monthly or after 12 weeks? We're only doing them every 12. We're doing one cohort at a time. So we'll start this cohort next week. The next one after that will start when we finish in September. In 3 months, which is I think nearly October. So this is how we're going to run it, and this is the only time to sign up for the cohorts in these little pushes. One of the ideas of it is to have the main community that we run is great, but it's very unstructured. We just kind of work randomly on stuff, and it's great. That level of abstraction and working on problems and is really good to progress with once you have a baseline. So the baseline is going to be these cohorts, which is very structured. We're going to go through things week by week. And then once we finish the cohort, then you go into unstructured, which is here's all the stuff, here's all the libraries, work on whatever you want. It's like going to the gym. You've got our gym session every week that we can join. And you gain from 2 different methods. These are my ideas about how people will gain and learn the best.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. I was just wondering because now I'm a bit busy. I don't know if I'll be able to join this cohort. So I just wanted to know when the next one is.
Yeah, the next one's and like I said, there's a couple of weeks built in. So we'll do the first 4 modules, then we'll have a break for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I suppose just in terms of timing as well, I usually say one of the modules, say module 1, I would say anywhere between 6 to 10 hours a week is probably fine. There's a certain amount of videos that you're going to watch. Then you're going to apply that learning to some design challenges. So, it depends how much time you have on your hands. You could Craig, that's very distracting. Have a really cute baby. It depends how much time you have for the design challenges. Then we have our calls. So anywhere between, say, 5 to 10 hours per week for the modules. Then a couple of week breaks so people can catch up, and then we'll proceed with the rest.
Okay. So is it like unstructured? So like that you're not joining at a set time?
No. So you'll go through.
So it's like in your own pace.
there's pre-recorded videos that you'll go through on your own. There's design challenges that you're going to apply that knowledge to throughout the weeks. And then we'll have weekly calls that you can join where we'll talk through your design challenges. We can get, help, and we'll talk through things. And we'll have probably, depends how many people join, but there'll either be 1 or 2 sessions a week that you can join, because time zones, we need to work it out for who we have.
Okay.
And then
Thanks.
and then there's the and there's always the Discord channels, like the private cohort Discord channel where you can ask questions. And we'll have a cohort board as well, so you can I want to see what everyone's working on and what they're doing. And, should be a fun group.
Yeah,
are you worried that you won't have enough time?
Yeah, because I'm doing quite a bit at the moment. So I'm just thinking I might not have enough time to even sit and do the tasks, and I kind of want to have that time to watch the video and do it with the task, if you know what I mean.
Of course. I suppose a couple of notes. The videos that I make, I try to make them as short as possible. So like 20-30 minutes. So they're not like hours and hours and hours. Might be a couple of long ones in there, but it's generally tried to fit around people's schedules. This stuff's because I want you practicing. I want you doing. I don't want you watching videos. So that that is the design challenges and the mechanism to practice. That constructivist learning. And the other thing that we could do as well is like, look, if we get up to the break, we get 4 weeks in or a few weeks in, you're struggling with time, we could just hit pause and you could pick up in the next cohort when we get up to that stage. That's totally fine, or just join the next cohort.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, that's good.
We have we can work anything out. We make our own systems. So cool. 11 minutes over. Thank you for staying out. I think we kept most participants as well, right? It's pretty good. Normally people drop off because well, you get some drop off. But well, thank you very much for if there's no more questions, actually, anything else? Or so we'll send out the recording. I'll send out the slides as well if there's anything that you want to go back over. And we'll be sending all the information about the new cluster starting next week as well. So the link is still in the meeting chat, so grab it before it disappears if you want. And hopefully see you there. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Craig, for saying very nice things. It was really appreciated. Thank you, Stefano. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Okay, see you on the next one, guys.